A bit of a late start to the year for us and a rough start to the Tampa Bay Lightning's 2025. We're going to break down the Sharks game and talk about the big month of January ahead for the Bolts.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Josh Sperber here, welcoming all of you to another episode of Locked On Lightning and thanking you guys for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if your team is the Tampa Bay Lightning, then this is the show for you. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the year with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. And we will get started by breaking down the first game of the season. An early first period goal, and around the same time in the second, the Sharks did it again. That seemed to be all they needed as San Jose and the Lightning even on shots, but the Bolts fell 2-1 and split the season series with the San Jose Sharks, which is honestly pretty surprising for a lot of reasons. And the first one being that the game in Tampa was an 8-1 victory for the Lightning. The second being is just the disparity between these two teams in points and in the standings. With the 2 points for the Sharks, they become the third to last team to reach 30 points. Only the Predators and Blackhawks are still awaiting to reach that 30-point mark. The Sharks at the bottom of the Pacific Division, and the Lightning broadcast crew were talking about them being sellers and even using the word fire sale at the trade deadline to talk about the Sharks. So, I mean, what went wrong with the Lightning? And honestly, it's tough to diagnose. It was just a couple of small lapses on defense. And in that first period, just a really nice some moves from Tyler Toffoli. He just kind of weaved through that Lightning defense and found himself into the goal, basically, in that first period. And it was pretty similar with Ferraro getting off the Granlund assist, but it really seemed like the tide had started to change. With about 2 minutes left in the second period, Anthony Cirelli got the goal for the Lightning. Eric Chernak with his 9th assist, and Brandon Hagel with his 25th assist. He has 18 assists to Anthony Cirelli over the last 2 seasons, and that just continues to show the Lightning's chemistry that they have with Cirelli and Brandon Hagel. But it was in the third period that things were just kind of topsy-turvy, and that ended up benefiting the Sharks. The Lightning were great on the power play. Each team had 2 chances, none went in. And the third period, from the get-go, the Lightning were the team dominating the possession. They were better in face-offs in the third and outshot the Sharks for the first time in a period and had the largest disparity in between the two team shots in a single period. The Sharks had just outshot the Lightning 12-6 in the second. The Lightning 11 shots to 4 over San Jose. And late in the period, it just seemed, or early in the period, it really seemed like the Lightning were going to get themselves back on track. You had one of the best chances come within the first 5 minutes of the game. And honestly, I think the stop that Askarov made may have been the game-saving stop for the Tampa Bay Lightning. It was about 55 remaining when Nick Paul put a shot on net, and Askarov just comes across the goal and makes an incredible diving stop to stop Nick Paul. And it's not like the Lightning didn't have any chances after that, but just the timing and, close on net and just how close that puck came to going in the goal. That looked like it would be a goal 99 times out of 100, but Askarov just made a 1 in 100 incredible save to stop Paul. And it wasn't even that the chances stopped after that. The Lightning had a power play shortly after that. Macklin Celebrini gets called for just not a smart play, just a roughing call, shoving Gage Gonzalez into the ground. And that happened a couple minutes after the Paul attempt. So, I mean, that certainly had me thinking, okay, this is the time, and it wasn't. And I think just between those two points in that third period, the missed shot by Paul / incredible save from Askarov, and then the Lightning not capitalizing on the power play that came shortly after that, because they still had some solid chances, but they did not have a better chance than Nick Paul. The Nick Paul shot that was stonewalled, and certainly, well, they didn't have another power play again. Neither team did, so they didn't have the extra man to try and go up that way, with the Lightning being as strong as they are on the power play. But I mean, this is a start of a big month for the Lightning. We're going to go into that a little bit more in the next segment, but this is just not how you want to do how you want to start it, because I'm still pretty perplexed from just the way that game ended up, because it really didn't seem like it was the Sharks that were controlling any aspect of the game. You know, it wasn't like, other than that one save, it wasn't like Askarov had just a better game than Vasilevsky. Vasilevsky had a game-saving stop, or really in the Lightning's case, a stop that kept them in it late in that second period with just a bad turnover in their own zone. The Sharks just immediately capitalized and put a shot right on Vasilevsky, who made a great pad save to nullify the mistake instantly. So you saw those kind of stonewalling, game-saving stops from both goalies, who, by the way, are the two highest drafted Russian goalies in NHL history, with Askarov being a former 11th overall pick and Vasilevsky being picked just a couple later in the first round, though it's been Vasilevsky in the game a bit longer. But regardless, I mean, it wasn't one of the games where, you're thinking, wow, they just lost that. They got outplayed. I don't think they got outplayed. It's just a puzzling kind of game for the Lightning. And to me, I'm just hoping it's some kind of New Year's hangover. You look at where the Lightning are this year; they're 15th in the league in terms of points at the start of the year, and that's the exact same place they were in last year. So they're in a good spot. Jake Gensel's status was in question for today, but he played a full game, almost 23 minutes, on a total of 19 shifts on that Lightning first line. So, I'm still struggling to see just kind of what went wrong. It was just, a couple of mistakes here and there. The Sharks just capitalized, and the Lightning, they didn't have as many clean looks as you would like. And the last couple of games, it feels like they've been slowing down a bit in the shots department. But they gotta find ways to, I think, put more pucks on net. I mean, that's the only thing that I'm really grasping at here, because it was a pretty evenly played game. I think the home field advantage at the Shark Tank certainly played into San Jose's hands. But I mean, this is just not the game that you want to see to start off the year from not just a playoff contender, but a playoff contender against a number one overall pick contender in the San Jose Sharks. So certainly not the way the Lightning would like to start the season. But they have two more games to make it up for this weekend ahead of what is going to be their busiest month of the season. The Lightning, coming off of a solid month, now are going to have to do it against two strong Western teams to start off what, games-wise, is going to be the longest month of the season so far. The Lightning will play the most games they have in a calendar month this year, getting back some of the games that they have in hand in the standings, as the Lightning have now played 35 games, while the Bruins have played the most in the Atlantic Division at 40. And we're going to talk about just how important this stretch was in our next segment. But I mean, it was certainly not the start to the stretch that the Lightning wanted. Obviously, they wanted to get a win over the Sharks, but I think they did some things well. Just in some cases, the puck didn't bounce their way, and right places, right time, and that diving save by Askarov, I think, really just put the icing on the cake. But the Lightning with plenty of chances to improve up in the month of December. And we'll talk about just how important their longest month of the year to date will be. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. I love betting on which players will score a goal and how many points each team will score. I think it's thrilling, even if I had point for a goal against the Sharks last night. Not only can you bet on who will win the game, though, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a goal, how many points each team will score, and so much more. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL and America's #1 sportsbook. Back here on Locked On Lightning, talking about the longest stretch of the season for the Tampa Bay Lightning. As we have already discussed, the Lightning will play just 2 games in a given week for the first of just 2 times in December, as each of the next 3 weeks, beginning on Sunday, the Lightning will have 4 games and be playing just about every other day with some weekend back-to-backs. The Bolts with 16 games in the month of January. So they are playing a game of hockey over 50% of the first month of the season. And this is not something the Lightning have been used to this year. But now when they're hopefully in midseason form, last night's game excluded, they will hopefully be ready for it. In the month of October, they were 7-3-0. And in December, they had their best winning percentage of the month, 8-3-0, and under 500 in November, 5-6-2. Total of 8 losses, but 2 of them in overtime. So the Lightning coming off their best month of the season. Not the best start in January for the Bolts, though. But there is still time to fix things. They've got, in my opinion, the biggest game of maybe even the month, though that title would probably still go to that back-to-back that they have on the road in Canada between the Leafs and the Canadiens on the 20th and the 21st. But I think Saturday's game, to me, is a big tone setter for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I think things would have been a little bit different. You would want to come into a game like the Kings, who are having a great year, 49 points, second behind Vegas in the Pacific Division, and certainly looking like one of the better teams in the league at this point. And that's a tough game on the road for the Lightning, especially when it's starting a back-to-back. And that's the game that I'd expect to see Andrei Vasilevskiy in with the Anaheim Ducks, the final game of this initial road trip before the Bolts come home for 2 more. But I mean, the Kings are, in my opinion, the first really big game. And until the loss to the Sharks, it was the first game that in my head that seemed to be in doubt. I guess wrong about the Lightning against San Jose. Sure, I'm not the only one, because on paper, that's a game you're going to expect the Lightning to win. That's not the case with LA. And the Kings game it might just be the second of the month, but it's still the first and maybe one of the only ones that the Lightning won't be favored in. I mean, they've got games against the Ducks, the Penguins, the Blackhawks, the Red Wings, all struggling teams this month, even the Bruins, which is important, but the Lightning still might be favored there, being only behind Boston essentially on games in hand. And then the Devils is another team that the Lightning might be favored against, but probably won't be favored against, but that's a team they've beaten twice. And yeah, you've got the Maple Leafs and everything coming down later in the month, but coming off of a bit of a long break, a short trip, a day off, and then a back-to-back, you start that back-to-back against one of the better teams in the NHL right now. And that's just the kind of game that you really want to win, especially now. I think it's even more important that they get those 2 points against LA, because frankly, I'm sure we can walk up and down the Lightning locker room and everyone is going to say that this is a game that they had expected to win earlier, before the game started. This is a game that they felt that they could have won and that they were confident, and maybe they should have. I mean, maybe that was part of the reason that the Sharks were able to get ahead early and stay ahead. The Lightning might have just had their foot off the gas to start the season. I mean, it's still unclear to me how the Lightning lost this game, because it was very even in terms of the way both teams played. Just the Sharks got a couple more breaks than the Bolts did, and that was really what ended it. But the Lightning are starting off not just this long road trip, but they've got games almost every day in a row. The Lightning had a couple days off leading up to this Sharks game, their last game being the loss to Montreal on December 29th. So that gave them an additional 3 days off before the game against the Sharks. The next time the Lightning have more than 1 day off in a row, January 22nd and 23rd, and that's surrounded by 2 back-to-backs, all on the road. You got Montreal and Toronto in reverse order north of the border, and then 2 days off. Blackhawks and Detroit on the road, 2 more days off, and then Blackhawks and Kings alternate with a day in between for the final home games of the month. So this is the busiest month of the season for the Lightning. They're already a little bit banged up. Jake Gensel played in the game today, had a solid performance, but I mean, just the fact that he got on the ice was big for the Lightning, because they weren't sure he was going to play. It was a game time decision ahead of the game against the Sharks per John Cooper. But fortunately, Gensel did end up playing. But I mean, hockey is a very physical sport, and you never know. And when you're playing this many days in a row and you're playing this much consecutive hockey, it just increases the chance of an injury. And are injuries part of the game? Yeah, they are, but it still can just hurt the chemistry a little bit when you've got a regular starter like the Lightning currently have in JJ Moser, going to be missing a significant amount of time. And Radish has really stepped up. Victor Hedman has continued to be the captain. He got hit with a puck in the face, though, so hopefully he's going to be all right. But it's just a lot of games, and that, could lead to a lot more mistakes and a lot more missed opportunities, like the game that they had against the Sharks last night. And honestly, it could really help the Lightning if they can use this as this kind of motivation, because, you got to take it one game at a time. And these guys are pros, so it's not like they're going to be, taking a certain team for granted or anything like that. They know how talented this league is. They know on any given day, any given team can win. But that's still a game that you have to think they thought they could win. It would be a perfect way to just start off the road trip with what a lot of people probably thought was going to be a nice, easy win for the Lightning, myself included. They don't have that nice, easy win coming up against LA to start this next back-to-back and to start a run of games where they only have, a day. They have a day off every other day, and they're playing every other day. And, it's obviously better than just smushing it all together and the Lightning not having time off. But, this is a big stretch. And I think that loss to the Sharks should be a wake-up call for the Lightning. And now they've got to really step up and do better against a better team. And we've seen that happen before during the Vasilevsky 300 chase. Was a perfect example. They had in November, they lost to the Flyers in a shootout and put themselves on their longest losing streak of the season. Then they had a week off, came back with 3 games in a row, including 2 dominant wins against the Jets and Devils, who were both among the top teams in the league. The Jets still have the best record in the league, and that is who Andrei Vasilevsky got his 300th win against. So we want to channel that kind of energy, because it's a bad loss against a team that you probably should have beat, but you got to have a short memory and just put that behind, because the Lightning still have 15 more games this month in about 29 or 30 more days, depending on how bad my math is. But the Lightning have a chance to make a statement. And I think at this point, you don't want to say that the game against the Kings is a must-win game, but I think especially after the loss of the Sharks, you don't want to get a 3-game losing streak going to start off the new year. You want to bring in more positivity with the new year in part of the same season. But I think the sense of urgency is certainly going to be higher for the Tampa Bay Lightning when they take to the ice against LA. And that is what we're going to be talking about in our next segment. 2 more games this weekend against 2 very different teams. The Lightning will do battle against the Kings and the Ducks on Saturday and Sunday. And let's chat about the upcoming games ahead for the Lightning. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions that you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? Well, that definitely happened to me, folks. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features is the subscription tracker. I've used it to cancel services that I wasn't using anymore, and I've already saved a ton. Plus, with their goals feature, I've been able to automatically set aside money for my future, so no more stretching about budgeting every month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon, rocketmoney.com/lockedon. The link is below, and you can use it to save. Last segment of the day, we're going to talk about 2 different games for the Lightning. Next up, the Bolts against the Los Angeles Kings. And following that one is a game between the Lightning and the Anaheim Ducks. Each of these 2 teams will face each other twice in the month of January, and then that is it for the rest of the season. You have a team well over 500 in Los Angeles and a team well under 500 in Anaheim, though the Mighty Ducks have 1 regulation loss fewer than wins, with 4 overtime losses on the season, 16, 17, and 4. That's the Sunday game after the LA Kings, second in that Pacific Division, where the Ducks sit 6th with 49 points at 22, 10, and 5. The Lightning now down to 4th place with 3 games in hand over the Ottawa Senators, and they have 42 points, 20, 12, and 2. So first up is the Kings, and I think for me the biggest key is to get Nikita Kucherov back in this one. He was held pretty quietly in the game against the Sharks. Really a rare time that you just don't see Kucherov getting involved in every play. And he was still involved. He was still playing his game, but he got shut down. It's not often that you see a game where a player like Nikita Kucherov doesn't score any points. But he was well defended, and the Sharks did a good job of really taking him out and minimizing his impact on the game. The same can be said about Braden Point. And both of them had some long point streaks that just ended. And the Lightning need to get Kucherov back. Over the last 5 games, Kuch has 7 points, 3 goals, and 4 assists, leading the Lightning in all of those categories. And he still made some nice passes, a couple of shots, but the Lightning need to get him more involved in the game. Their offense, I don't want to say lives and dies with Nikita Kucherov, because I think that is a little bit too dramatic, as important as a role in the offense that Kuch has. They still have plenty of key players to go on without him. And they can make it work in games where he's either not on his game, not 100%, or not in the game in general. But getting Kucherov in the offense is key if they're going to want to beat the Kings, because to beat a team like that, to beat a team that is right now among the tops in the league, one of the top 8 teams record-wise and points-wise, despite being second in their division, they're a tough team to face. And these are the kind of teams that you want to beat, as the Lightning are trying to really solidify themselves as a contender. But to beat teams like that, you need to have your best players playing their best hockey. And that is the main thing that's got to happen. The goalie issues, I think, is something that just kind of remains to be seen. The back-to-backs, it's usually going to be Vasilevsky playing the first, and then Jonas Johansson, who's had a couple of really nice games in relief of Vasilevsky. He'll probably be the goalie against Anaheim on Sunday. And obviously, it's harder, I feel like, to predict just keys and really look into, just the right situations and what the Lightning will have to do for these games back to back. But I mean, they're going to be facing a Ducks team that is on a 3-game win streak, including an overtime victory over Winnipeg. They've won 6 out of their last 10. And the last 3 victories for Anaheim have been good ones. They had an overtime win against Winnipeg, and then wins against New Jersey and the Edmonton Oilers. All of those teams are playoff contenders right now. And this is a team I think the Lightning really have to beat. Obviously you want them to beat the Kings, and I think if the Lightning drop it to 3 in a row, then you might as well call the game against Anaheim a must-win game, really just for team confidence, morale, all that sort of stuff. But in the first week of January, in the first 3 games of 2025. Having 2 losses against 2 teams that most people think will end the season very far from playoff contention, it's just not the way you want to start off the month. Like, I understand that it's the same season, and you don't really want to put 2024 or 2025's game on a pedestal higher than the other. But, I'm the kind of person who's about the new year, new start kind of thing. And Lightning did a lot of things well in 2024. But if they're going to want to be Stanley Cup contenders, if they're really going to want to, have a serious shot at the Cup, you've got to beat the teams at the bottom of the table. You've got to beat the teams like the Sharks and the Ducks. And the Lightning already had that loss to the Sharks. And it would be really tough to just start the month with 2 losses to teams that on paper maybe should have beat. The biggest key in that game is going to be the power play, because these are 2 teams at both ends of the spectrum when it comes to power play percentage and goals for per game. Anaheim is 30th in the league with 2.5 goals per game. Lightning first with 3.94, first in the league. They're third in the league, shooting almost 20%, 27%, completing 27% of their power plays. The Ducks 31st in power play percentage, 12.4. So the Lightning offense is obviously going to be key, and the power plays are going to be something that we're going to watch out for. Always something that's important for Tampa. And if they can force some penalties for Anaheim, force some mistakes to get themselves on the power play, and capitalize on a penalty kill that is on the lower side. The Ducks' penalty kill of 75 has them 26th in the league, and they're also last in the league in faceoffs. So Lightning can just, if the Lightning can win those faceoffs, and they can really control the game, because giving the Lightning a lot of time in offensive possession is just a bad idea for the opposing team. They have too many talented players on offense, too many guys that can make just about any pass you can think of, to possess the puck that much. So that, I think, is going to be the key. Unleashing Nikita Kucherov against the Kings, I think, is going to help them towards hopefully a victory that is definitely going to be a close game. I'm hoping the Lightning just blow out Anaheim. But it's going to be two very interesting games that could be pretty telling about the rest of the month and maybe even the rest of the season for the Tampa Bay Lightning. But that is going to do it for today's show. Thank you all for tuning in, and please make sure to give us a like, a subscribe, a follow on whatever channel you watch this on, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcast, we got it. So make sure to give us a follow and give us some subscriptions. We really appreciate your guys' support. And finally, thank you all for making Locked On Lightning your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steele and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. So for the start of 2025, hope everybody had a happy new year, and I wish everybody a happy and healthy 2025. Please enjoy your weekend and go Bolts.